The year 1990 was a pretty decent time for a trip to the movies, especially if you're a self-confessed gorehound like yours truly. There's nothing better than sitting down in a packed movie theatre, or even at home with a pet cat or a similarly cherished human, to watch some carnage on the screen. Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead was a fun remake of the 1968 classic, while we also got the likes of It, Tremors, Child's Play 2, Gremlins 2, Predator 2, there's a theme forming here, Killer Crocodile 2, okay, maybe not that last one. Also, if you're a fan of Stephen King adaptations, the year also brought the ankle-smashing Misery with Kathy Bates in full-on psycho mode.
You did it! You did it! You murdered my Misery! Eddie.
Plus, the outlandishly bad, in a good way, Frankenhooker, replete with all of its softcore pornography and grisly images. Which brings us nicely to a sci-fi / horror movie with a stellar cast, a cool premise, and a director with a penchant for coming-of-age dramas and blood-sucking vampires, Joel Schumacher, 1990's Flatliners. In some ways, it's hard to think of another movie that's so quintessentially 90s, with a cast consisting of great actors like Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, Oliver Platt, William Baldwin, and directed by the versatile, hugely talented, and greatly missed Joel Schumacher. I remember thinking how original and compelling the movie's concept was when I first saw it, where our protagonists experiment with life and death, all in the name of science and a fascination with the afterlife. However, 34 years later, does the film still hold up as a classic piece of sci-fi / horror filmmaking? Or should it never be revived from its deathly slumber?
It's alive!
Stay tuned to find out here on What the Fuck Happened to Flatliners 1990. The success of Flatliners isn't solely down to one person, naturally. However, Joel Schumacher's imprint on the film as director cannot be diminished. Looking back on his career, he ultimately became a hugely successful Hollywood player who the studios would turn to on numerous occasions, as he had a great track record of turning in great-looking movies that brought substantial profits for the studios. He was a master of the 80s Brat Pack movies, just when they were massively popular, and he nurtured the careers of actors like Colin Farrell, with a shrewd eye for talent and an uncanny knack for casting the perfect role. Unfortunately, Schumacher never won any of the big awards that some directors crave for, and when he produced a movie the critics actually liked, you got a sense that their praise was somewhat begrudging. He wasn't a Hollywood darling, so to speak, and some of his movies got the attention of the Razzies more than that of the Oscars. The thing is though, he made movies his way, and for the most part, they were fun, highly entertaining, and brought original concepts to light. Schumacher's most notable projects, pre-Flatliners, were St. Elmo's Fire from 1985 and The Lost Boys from 1987. The former helped to introduce the world to ridiculously good-looking guys and gals such as Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, and Ali Sheedy.
Did you ever think that maybe there's more to life than being really, really, really ridiculously good-looking?
While The Lost Boys is still regarded as a classic piece of horror cinema, a blackly comic look into youth and heroism that could easily sit alongside some of Spielberg's mid-80s classics, albeit with more of a darkly gothic spin. Flatliners was very similar to The Lost Boys in this regard. It features a cast of beautiful people who are synonymous with the era and either just rising to the very top of their game or almost there already. Schumacher managed to recapture the spirit of The Lost Boys, and instead of blood-sucking vampires, he investigates what lies beyond death when his characters give themselves near-death experiences. Flatliners marked the big screen debut of screenwriter Peter Filardi, whose previous work as a writer was on the hilarious TV series MacGyver. I know it's not a comedy, but come on, that series was funny as fuck. His idea for Flatliners was inspired by a friend's near-death experience on the operating table, and far removed from the usual fantasy of bright lights and angels' voices welcoming him to the pearly gates. Other notable additions to the production team with the legendary Michael Douglas as one of the movie's producers. Alongside the main cast members, we also have Kimberly Scott, Benjamin Mouton, Hope Davis, and Patricia Belcher as just an example of the movie's wider ensemble. The story follows Kiefer Sutherland's Nelson Wright, a medical student with a potentially lethal fascination for discovering what lies beyond death. He convinces his classmates, Rachel Manus, played by Julia Roberts, David Labraccio, played by Kevin Bacon, Joe Hurley, played by William Baldwin, and Randy Steckel, played by Oliver Platt, to help him conduct a daring experiment, or, to put it simply, ending their lives in the name of science.
There are a few people that I would like to kill right now. You, however, are not one of them.
Together, they take turns stopping their hearts for brief periods of time, then reviving each other to share their experiences. Initially, they're exhilarated by the euphoric sensations of the afterlife, but as they continue the experiments, they start to experience terrifying visions from their pasts. Guilt-ridden secrets and unresolved traumas manifest as weird apparitions, haunting them in their waking lives. Like I said earlier, the premise is great, but does it still hold up? Well, the answer to that is largely a heart-reviving yes. While the plot doesn't quite match the awesome premise, director Schumacher and his hugely talented DOP Jan de Bont go nuts on the movie's set pieces, creating visuals that are a feast for the eyeballs. What lets the movie down slightly is that the characters are a touch too thinly written. The characterization doesn't go beyond what the protagonists face as part of their quest to discover what awaits in the afterlife. Their plan begins with tales of people who die, but are brought back to life. In the middle of this, they experience an almost euphoric state where loved ones welcome them to the other side, accompanied by peaceful music and a tunnel of light. The medical students are desperate to experience this for themselves, but their attempts to one-up their colleagues don't exactly go to plan. The tension and suspense of seeing this happen for the first time is highly entertaining, so is the second time to be fair. However, once we see it reoccur in the narrative time after time, it loses its grip and becomes a little tiresome. The cast all do a great job of bringing the talented medical students to life amongst the gloomy backdrop of gargoyles and shadows that surround the dangerous experiments. Despite the premise of the movie being so cool, there was a danger that the execution of the resulting action could look slightly ridiculous. But all involved pull it off regardless, and with some panache. It's a well-directed, intelligent and original movie, with some great visuals thanks to Jan de Bont and Joel Schumacher. If only the plot had been retooled slightly and the cast given more to work with, Flatliners would be more than simply a highly entertaining genre flick with a gorgeous cast. Flatliners was released theatrically by Columbia Pictures on August the 10th, 1990, and went straight in at #1 at the US box office.
Tonight, a brilliant young medical student who dared to experience death and come back.
It grossed $10 million over its opening weekend domestically and made $61.5 million in the US alone. The movie also had a European release in the UK on November the 9th, 1990, where it grossed £1.4 million to add to its total gross. No data is readily available for any other territories. The movie had competition from the Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore romantic pottery epic Ghost, which was in its 5th week, with only the likes of Air America and Presumed Innocent as any real threat. Critically, the movie was met fairly well, with review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes reporting that 50% of critics give the film a positive review, based upon 54 reviews. The New York Times wrote that, when taken on its own stylish terms, Flatliners is greatly entertaining. Viewers are likely to go along with this film instantly or else ridicule it to death. Its atmospheric approach doesn't admit much middle ground. Roger Ebert also praised the film as an original, intelligent thriller, well directed by Joel Schumacher, and called the cast talented young actors who inhabit the shadows with the right mixture of intensity, fear, and cockiness. Less enthusiastic about the movie were Entertainment Weekly, who said, Flatliners is camp but of a very low order. Schumacher is too intent on pandering to the youth market to take the mad risks and plunges that make for a scintillating bad movie. Ultimately then, Flatliners is, for this reviewer at least, an original, fun, often highly entertaining, but flawed throwback to when Hollywood was obsessed with good-looking lads and lasses cheating death. 2017 brought a standalone sequel / remake of the original movie starring Ellen Page, now Elliot of course, and Diego Luna. Our next video may even take a deep dive into the merits of that movie.
This was my fault.
More importantly though, as always, your opinion is what matters to us here at JoBlo. So let us know your thoughts of Flatliners in the comments section. Does it hold up all these years later, or should it remain firmly stuck in the afterlife? I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one, you wonderful gorehounds. Thanks for watching.
Today's a good day to die.